Okay, here we are for another design review, part of Wolfram language version 13.3. And we are looking here at, well, I don't know why there's discrete computation because this seems to be,
Well,
okay,
this is a discrete computation
AR and
team.
VR.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Okay.
we labeled the meeting
There's
differently.
very little that's discrete, and there's very little that's computation, but nevertheless, okay. So AR deploy.
Mhm.
It's interesting that we were just talking about service deploy, which is probably not unrelated to this.
So the basic idea is this, that you can use your phone as an AR device to walk around a 3D object. And the way we do that is, this is kind of new, which is a file format that's emerging to represent AR and VR content, which is this USD format. And on Android, it's so far GLTF. We expect those guys to eventually migrate to USD as well. The way it works, so those are two new file formats that we support, and those are rich file formats. And the second,
so I just did this, and I've now got a teapot sitting on top of my visual scene.
isn't that nice?
It's very, very cool. It'd be even better if the teapot wasn't just plain gray.
Right. So we're coming to that. So that means that you don't necessarily.
Wait a minute.
So you don't necessarily need to sort of buy a $3,000
I want to know
headset.
how I get rid of the teapot.
No, you're stuck with a teapot now forever. It's just
okay. It's like one of those floaters in your eye.
Yes.
Now it's a teapot. Okay, I got it.
All right. So you see, since you try this, and for those, I think that anybody can try this online. If you point your phone to this, you probably will get up a teapot too. I don't think it's restricted.
Right. It was deployed. Okay. But now, okay, this is exactly what service deploy is supposed to deal with, because what you have here, one of the issues you have here, you've got your QR code that came back, but you also have a cloud object that's the backup for that.
Right.
And the question is, where is that cloud object, and how do you find the cloud object? If you wanted to, you know what I'm saying? If you want to,
I mean, you can always export if you want to sort of have the file, the backing file. But Charles, there's something else you want to say?
No. But the problem is that if you wanted to delete that instance, right? How do you do that?
So when you say delete the instance, you mean the cloud object?
Yes, the backing cloud object, because that's exactly the same issue with mail receiver function and other service deployments.
I mean, one of the easiest ways just to do bar recognize, and then you get back the cloud object, and then you delete it as any other object.
Hackalola. I don't have a good answer to this, except, I mean, the only answer, I mean, literally, we were just talking about things related to this.
Good.
I mean, the other possibility.
So you're all warmed up,
Well,
or is it mostly problems, or did you have solutions too?
No. We have solutions, but they're somewhat complicated, and they're more programmer. I mean, this is beautiful what you have here. Okay. I'm wondering.
We figured that we can use the cloud for something.
I'm not even going to dignify that with an eye roll. Okay. Okay. No, yeah. But look, here's a solution potentially.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a print form here. Okay. This is and what I might suggest is that AR deploy returns a thing which is some kind of AR deployment, which would look almost exactly like this, but with some additional wrapping around the QR code. And that if you just want the plain image of the QR code, it's a sub-value to AR deployment, just as the cloud object will be a sub-value to the AR deployment. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, did you follow that, Charles?
Right, so you want AR deploy to actually generate an object. Maybe we can call also AR deploy object.
That's what I heard too, but that means it's going to be a two-stepper.
No, it isn't. Watch this. Okay.
Okay.
So my point is, oh boy. Where am I saving this? Oh, that's not what I want to save anyway. I wanted to save this. Okay, well, in any case. What I'm suggesting is that it return an AR deployment and that the AR deployment's print form contains the QR code.
Right. So the summary.
Oh, I see what you're
summary
saying.
box we generate have an icon.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Right.
So then that gives us a handle to a bunch of other things.
Exactly. So we can
Right.
do all kinds
Oh,
of
that's
things.
not a bad idea.
Right, because then you
That's
could
pretty
also
good.
extract the 3D graphics. You could do all
Yep,
kinds
yep,
of stuff.
yep. Yeah.
Okay. I'm wondering. I mean, this is very cool. What else is kind of like this? And then I'm going to ask questions about how do I get color on the thing and so on.
Right. So in general, I like us to kind of do more publish,
Well, maybe
know,
it should be called AR Publish.
yeah, maybe. Let's talk. Yeah, we do need to talk a bit about names. And so in general, like for all of our teams, I'm actively looking for ways that we can publish more into the sort of the digital ecosystem around us, because it makes it more useful for everybody if you can get things out and if you can basically publish and deploy.
Right, but this is, look, service deploy, just so you're clear, what is it? It's for lodging things into external services. For example, a plugin for ChatGPT. For example, a Discord bot.
But it's basically an API, right? Isn't it?
No. Listen to what it is. Okay? Listen to what it is. It's something slightly different from that. There is an external service. For example, a mail server. Okay? What you are doing is you're lodging something with the mail server so that when you poke the mail server saying, I'm sending mail to this mail address, then something is activated. The back end is in the cloud, activating in the cloud. Does that make sense? So let's talk about a Discord bot, for example. You talk to the bot, whatever it's called, the Wolfie bot or something, right? And that goes through Discord's infrastructure, right? And then it calls back with a webhook or some other such thing.
So Discord is some company or some other service or something?
Okay, Slack, Rocket Chat, whatever, something that you've heard of. Okay. Telegram.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so any one of these things, you are, or Alexa for that matter, you're lodging in their infrastructure something that you will get to with some name that you tell to their infrastructure. Okay, you have lodged a thing in their infrastructure that then says, okay, if you got to this place, go out and call this thing which is an API in our cloud.
Right.
Okay. So it's a slightly richer interaction than what you need for this case here.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't think it's uncommon. There's a scenario that you described for service deploy. I can see from for a bunch of things where you kind of knit things together.
Yes. Where the external service is the exposure point.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what you've got here is there's 3 levels. There's export to a file, right? Where it's just like the file is exposed through the file system or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, what that QR code is doing is it's just going to a cloud object, right?
Right. Plus or minus, depending on if the cloud object is actually a script or just a pure link to the file. Yep.
Well, what is it in this case?
Well, since we don't know if you have is an iPhone or iOS or iPad or Android, so we have a code which runs behind the scene to detect the type of device you have.
What kind of code? Is it JavaScript or what?
No, just the normal Wolfram code. We just push.
Oh, I see. You're looking at the when the, what is it called?
The user agent.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, why is this thing not? So, okay, but so what is that thing behind it? If I take this and I say, where did I put that? And I just say, barcode recognize of this. What's happening? What's it doing? Oh. What's this?
Well, I mean, we won't ship it with that. But...
Right.
Okay,
but I mean, this is ultimately just a UUID, right?
Yes.
And what's the /main?
So by default on the temporary directory, we create another subdirectory. I mean, it's contained the main script, right? When you deploy it on the cloud, which it detected. So if you specified, for example, that is, you know that on iOS, so we deploy the actual file. So you don't have actually the main, but you have a link to the actual USD file.
Okay, what the hell just happened? I did a system open on this thing here, and I just went to the Wolfram.com homepage.
Right. So is that part of auto detection of the browser you have? So if you're on desktop,
okay, so it should not go to the homepage. It should go to a page that says use this on a phone.
Exactly. So that
needs to be a designed page.
Yep. So that's temporary for now. Yeah.
Who's project managing here? Marcy.
I am Marcy.
Okay, so that's the thing that needs to get done, is that page. It should just say, it should just have a simple explanatory page. Do you guys agree?
Yep.
Got it.
I mean, it can just be a cloud object page, just a very simple page, but it should be designed. Okay, so you've just got a UUID here, and there's no identification of there's no dot something or other file type for this. Is that correct?
Because you may need different ones. Android wants GLTF. iOS wants USD.
The word main at the end there, you've decided that it's called main. Is that correct?
Yes.
That could be anything we want.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that should have a name like AR dispatcher. Right, which makes it less obscure to people what the heck's going on.
Okay, yep.
That's what I'm saying. So what should that name be? AR asset, AR dispatcher.
Really, I don't have any.
Then let's make it AR dispatcher. It's a
okay.
little long, but okay. So now this will normally be going into your anonymous. It's an anonymous cloud object in your cloud file system, correct?
Yes.
But what if you wanted to? You know what? I don't think this is right. I think what we should do instead is that this should be something more like cloud publish. Maybe, I'm not sure, because the whole point is I might want to say what the name of the file that I want to put this in is. You see what I'm saying? Because I might want this to be put into Teapot in my cloud. I might want to send somebody an email, a thing that says Teapot and says, just because if I got that URL, right, and got that on my phone in email, it would have the right behavior. Am I correct?
Yes, but my assumption was that, if somebody really want to start to customize, right, so AR deploy do the whole automation and such. But, we hope that in the documentation, we just easily show someone like you just do, cloud export, of the actual teapot has a USD. The cloud object you get there is exactly pretty much this.
No, it's not exactly pretty much this. It's not it, because it doesn't have the dispatcher framework. Right?
Right.
Okay, so that's no good, right? So what we have, and this is nice, I think what we want is that you would say cloud publish of AR dispatcher of the thing, right? Because it is very much like URL dispatcher, right? You know what URL dispatcher does, right? URL dispatcher takes, you see, it takes URL patterns and content. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So this is very much the same thing. Let's see, view dispatcher. I'm almost thinking that this could be, I mean, maybe this is wrong, but something like view dispatcher. Actually, this is very similar to, it's like a device dispatcher. Hold on. This is incredibly similar to what we've had to do in the framework for dealing with CSS. Right? So do you know what I'm talking about there? So you know the stuff that, okay, so see, let's hope that this is, here we go. All this stuff here. Okay, interface switched. Defines a responsive interface for deployed web pages. Okay. So what this is doing is not by device, but by size of web page, right? It's doing responsive design type stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what you have here is incredibly similar. I mean, it's very similar to interface switched, what you want here. Right? You want to say, I mean, it's something like, but it isn't quite this. But then what you want is just graphics here, correct?
Yes, so in any other expression which can be mapped to a graphic, yes, pretty much.
So, okay, hold on. So I agree it would be nice to have a single function that does this and produces this AR deployment. But the AR deployment is a cloud object. Hold on. The AR deployment contains the whole thing. So help me out here. I mean, you understand what the issue is, right? Because we want two things. We want a simple.
I think the main thing you're after is the customizability. Is that right?
Well, I want customizability. I want deletability.
Yeah.
Right. So we get deletability with AR deployment.
Yes.
But I'm also concerned about being able to put this to, the teapot. Clearly AR deploy can have a second argument, which is the standard, thing that you would do to deploy to a non-default.
Yes.
Now, I mean, what really, look, let me show you something. Let me remind you of something. If you cloud publish this, okay, and I say automatically assign URL, I cloud publish it. Okay, look at that. There's a barcode there.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder, whether basically we should always display the, yeah, it's a mess, to always display the barcode in a, yeah, okay, this is a separate thing. This is for Marcy to chase. In a cloud object, we should probably have a sub-value to any cloud object that says barcode or QR code or whatever. Am I making sense? Did you understand what I said? Do I need to repeat?
Understood.
Okay. So that goes to the cloud object team, which is probably Joel Klein, I think.
Got it.
Hey, well, I have you. Oh, there it is. Okay, I knew we had two ways of showing cloud on web pages. So there's the iframe, but there is the second one. There is what I've been looking for.
Yes.
Okay.
Embedding. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. That's the notebook embedder.
Okay.
What do you want that for?
No, I just couldn't remember what it was. I knew we had it, but I couldn't find it.
Okay, fine.
Just
Well,
it
that's
seems to,
annoying.
been lost, or I couldn't find it.
Right. Okay. So right. Okay. This shouldn't be called AR deploy anyway. It should be called AR publish if that's what it is. See what I'm saying? Because it has permissions. See, this is a mess. It's a mess because, imagine this is the next stealth fighter or something. You don't want to publish it to the whole world, probably. You know what I'm saying? So AR deploy isn't the right thing because that is it's doing a publish with permissions to public, isn't it? And if it isn't, it's doing the wrong thing. Because we have cloud publish and cloud deploy. Cloud deploy by default goes only to your account.
Right, and yeah, that's why we went with AR deploy instead of AR publish. It always goes to your own account.
I know, but that's often not what you want.
Right.
So I have to say, even though it's really cool to have just one function, I kind of think it will be better to begin with to have cloud publish or cloud deploy, and you have all the same options, you have all the permissions, you have all those kinds of things. And then the question is, what's inside it? But you see, that's not going to work either because we need a return thing that's an AR deployment. Guys, you know what? This is, we're about to make a mistake here. Yeah, I think we have the wrong people in this meeting. Let's see. Who will be the best person? Can Marcy please ping? Maybe Joel Klein is the right person for this. And also Todd Gailey. Can you see if he's around, please?
Yes, I'll grab them both. Okay.
Okay. All right. Let's just go on here, and we'll come back to this. Okay. So, Roger, do you understand? Do you understand?
No, it's a question of how we knit it in with everything else. I understand that, and
right.
Fine. Bring in the people. We'll reason through it.
Fine.
But just my point. I hope the knitting will not override the main aim of the function, which is essentially for somebody to easily have the object on his device, or I mean on his phone. It doesn't really matter that it goes to the cloud or we magically push it to whatever way.
Well, but how else would you get it to your phone?
No, true. That's, I mean, the only part right now is to the cloud, right? Definitely. But I mean, I just don't want it to dominate the whole design.
Well, sorry, but that's the whole point. The fact that there is potentially another way to do it, like a direct Bluetooth connection or who knows what else, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm thinking here. Okay. Hey, Marcy, is Todd going to come or not?
I'm still trying to reach him.
I won't give the introduction without that then. So let's keep going. Okay, great. OBJ. So how do I make the teapot be in color?
So we are still working on it, not yet on your build, but we are trying to, we will preserve the the look and the feel of our graphics. So this is what we are working on now. For example,
Hey,
on the latest.
What about geographics? Well, that should also be exportable. The other forms of graphics like geographics, astrographics, and so on, right?
Right. In principle, if we can just, we just change it to a pure graphic object and export that, yes.
And I think you should be able to export any expression and just rasterize it. Why not?
Yep, that can be the default case. We make exception like entities where we have polygons and such, we map it to the appropriate things. Yep, yes.
Right, okay. What the heck is target system?
Right, so it's
no, that cannot be right. We've had canonical names for these before, and that's not it. For iOS. Find out what dollar system, maybe Joel knows that. What's dollar system ID for iOS?
That I don't know.
Okay, I think our node would know that. So Marcy, you have to chase him to find that out.
Okay.
Okay, we will have had that when we've got, certainly for Android, we had that because we had an Android kernel. Is it called iPad OS? I've never heard that.
Yeah, it is now.
It is?
Yeah, it was iOS for the longest time, but a couple of years ago, they created an explicit iPad OS.
Okay, fine. Okay, is target system the right option to use for that deployment mechanism? Target system is what we use for like GPU, CPU, right?
yes, on the compiler side, yep.
It's probably okay. And in the future, if this, you know what, you should support alternative values there that are just the file types, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Instead of saying iOS, just say USD or something.
Oh, okay, I see.
And maybe we have already a thing, export formats. Don't we already have an option for that? That's called, because the reason I'm saying this is, imagine somebody comes, as they will, and they say, I've got a great new, in fact, I even saw somebody pitching this to me like within the last 2 weeks, some kind of immersive device type thing, right? And it's like, oh, we take GLTF format, right? It'd be nice to be able to use this function and expect that it works for that. Or maybe they have some other, fancy, format type that they take. And then it would be nice to be able to, well, what we have to have, no, actually what we need here is the dispatcher. Directly analogous to URL dispatcher, we need something that says, given that this is your operating system, this is the file type to use, or this is the file to use. Am I correct?
Yes, it's kind of what we have behind the scene, yes.
Right, which is exactly a URL dispatcher. Is that how you implemented it?
Not as URL dispatcher, no, but
But you could.
Yep.
I think. Well, essentially what you're doing is you're dispatching on the user agent type.
Yes.
But so what we really want here, much like in the case of interface switched, right, where we're giving a, if you have this, use that type thing. Am I making sense?
Yes.
I mean, this is a little bit different in its behavior. Oh, look, it asks for the user agent string here. What exactly are you using to dispatch on? You're not parsing the user agent string, are you? You're using what we have with the device type that we've gotten from the user agent string. Is that correct?
Well, it is a user agent, some undocumented cloud symbol I use. Don't remember, always remember
What
the
is
name.
it? What is it?
Well,
Joel, what do you think it should be?
It's likely to be $user agent something operating system or browser name, I think, user agent name.
Okay.
let's see.
Well, but whatever it is, better not change. Well, once we're using it for this, and maybe we should document it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
user agent operating system.
Yeah, user agent operating system. I was actually gonna raise a suggestion to consolidate all those fields into a single thing, like $user agent. That's just an association,
I think that would be a better idea.
you know.
I agree. Can you do that quickly? I mean,
Yeah.
Okay.
Like for 13.3, right?
Yeah. Let's try to get that and go through Todd for the design, I guess, and then make sure Charles is aware and can use what you've built.
Mhm.
Okay. So, okay, are we getting Todd or not?
Neither Kristen or I have been able to reach him yet.
Okay, it was on the previous meeting we were in. Maybe let's see. Joel, who else would have an opinion about how to do we've got this different form of cloud publishing and so on with a different kind of object that's being published. Who else would have an opinion about that?
Hmm. I mean, people
Are
like
you the person who
Ricardo,
should? What's that?
people like Ricardo might have some insight.
All the people who were in the previous meeting, that was such a horrible meeting. Well, okay.
So when it comes to color, Stephen, so I think there's a couple of things to be aware of. There's sort of two kinds of file formats. There's ones that
I know
the
they
older
just have geometry. The OBJ format has just geometry, and some of the ones have surface color.
I mean, yes, yes,
I've had the experience of trying to get things 3D printed, and having people tell me, "Oh, we just don't do color, and we don't do any surface colors."
right, exactly. But some of the more modern ones, like this USD, they have a full shader layer. It's pretty rich actually.
Okay, so we just have to be able to output to that.
Yeah, so our goal is to both, in the future, to be able to export basically the shaders that we use. It's kind of like our light system plus.
For this version, we should just be able to output our standard, faceted polygon colors. Yes.
Yeah. So
Well, we'll guarantee that we'll export the geometry correctly and probably some basic color and maybe some light, right?
Okay.
But
well,
but going further into the future, our goal is to export better visual fidelity, meaning that.
No, I understand that. But if it's a furry creature, then you can export it with fur.
Right. Yes.
Okay. All right. I think Todd is here now, so let's describe the issue. Okay. Okay. This is super cool thing that these guys have that allows you say AR deploy of let's just check. Is Todd is here? Yes.
Yeah.
You say AR deploy of a piece of 3D geometry and hold up your phone to the screen and go to this, and you'll get a floating teapot. Okay. That works by two pieces of plumbing.
Point your phone to this, Todd.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So it works by having deployed several files to the cloud, presumably in the directory defined by that UUID, correct? Charles?
yes.
And all of this stuff here is garbage, right? It's just a UUID followed by subnames. Is that correct?
Yes.
This shouldn't be here, right? That's just because of the development process. Correct?
Yes.
Is that
I mean,
correct?
we didn't want to dump it in any arbitrary thing. So it's, yep, correct.
Well, it shouldn't be dumped anywhere here. It's just a UUID, right? And the axiomatic theory of the universe is UUIDs never collide.
Okay.
Right? Amusingly, it really is axiomatic to the universe because we have these atoms of space that are, unique, but you can't prove their uniqueness from inside the universe. Anyway, different topic. Okay, so I think it should be. And Joel, do you see any objection to that? They just generate what would they do to do this? They generate a UUID and then they put things into then they would deploy to subdirectories of the UUID. Is that right? Joel?
Sure.
Well, is that a sensible process? Does that make sense? And if they delete that base UUID, does it delete the things, the sub pieces?
Yeah, we have something called an external bundle that is well, you could just make it a directory too. That's a UUID, but
well, if it's an external bundle? Look, we need a specification for these guys of where they should put this, and there's no reason for this. Okay, people could put it in a personally named file or directory, okay, that's called teapot or something in their home directory or wherever they want it, okay. But by default, it should just go to an anonymous UUID'd place, right?
yeah, and with no arguments like you're showing it here, that's what will happen.
No, but it's not what will happen. They wrote this specifically, and it's going in this person's crazy base temp AR directory. Okay, so which is
well,
wrong.
what I'm talking about is the cloud publish AR dispatcher XXX. That syntax just universally will create, by default, creates an anonymous cloud object identified by.
I see. So they should put. Okay, if they put their files, they have 3 files, right? Is that correct, guys? By default,
Yes.
you have 3 files. Okay. So actually you have 4 files because you have your dispatcher, which is not the same as the dispatcher that is part of, so they need an external bundle, do they not?
It sounds like it, yeah. Similar to document generator and auto refresh.
Okay, but so then, and that external bundle will then be referenced by one cloud object.
That's
so
right.
that if they, is that correct?
Yes.
So if they delete that cloud object, it all goes away.
It all goes away, yeah.
Okay, so then let me explain the rest of the plumbing. So they have something where when you point your phone at this thing, it serves you the URL that is appropriate for your type of phone. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because
Yeah,
they're
I get-
different file types for iOS and for Android.
I see. Okay.
Now, in principle, you could pick up other things from the user agent string to use in that dispatching. I mean, then you'd have to do it custom. Well, what else might you? I mean, you might. I don't know. You could have something depending on geolocation or some such other weird thing, right? I mean, you could. You know the IP address of the incoming phone, right, guys?
Yeah.
So in principle, you could dispatch on more stuff. So you might want, in the deployment function, you might want a dispatcher that could be a little bit richer and use other things just for extra weirdness. Like it can know whether you're in night or day, for example. I don't know why that matters, but it might matter. Does that make sense, Charles and Roger?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't see an urgency to.
No. There's no urgency
right now.
I'm just trying to get a design. I'm just trying to get a design that can deal with that. Okay. So now this. Okay. So Todd and Joel, you understand that what they need is a piece of code running in the cloud. Actually, it's quite unclear to me why. Okay, what's the best way to implement this? They have a front piece of code running in the cloud that simply looks at the user agent string and then serves them one of these three files. I mean, that could just be a raw piece of code. What's that?
Yes, actually, if you, like you say, so essentially right now, right? Essentially, it's a, we do a cloud deploy of a, just a switch of user agent, and then we just redirect the URL. So essentially, it's, 2 files.
Yeah.
Plus a cloud object.
Although they don't actually need to be files. I mean, you could deploy them as just parts of a single cloud object. You could literally say delayed of, and then some, switch of the user agent string, comma, and then one pile of bits, and then another pile of bits.
Yeah.
Yes, plus or minus that. Actually, in the detail, the Android requires some more crazy incantation to make it work. So that's why we needed a redirection.
Okay. So look, Joel and Todd, could you help these guys to get that implemented in the right way?
Mhm.
Sure. So right now this doesn't exist. This barcode is just generated by hand or something. I don't understand.
No. Everything is implemented. It exists.
The question is, what's the correct administrative way to fit in with the cloud system?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And
that's
what's
sort of
happening
future
right
proof
now
and
is
which is practical and all of that.
Right. It's spraying 3 or 4 files in with a hierarchy into the cloud file system. Okay. And so the thing is, first, what should it spray into the cloud file system? That's the first question. Right. That's so that it is proxied by a single cloud object. So when you say delete object, it will go away. Am I making sense?
Yeah, but
if
sounds like
there's a high
Joel's saying
polygon count, Charles and Roger, what happens if there's a high polygon count?
I mean, it can be a rich object.
I mean, this thing could be a 50 megabyte file.
Yeah.
So it matters that you can delete it.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Todd, you were going to say something.
I was going to say that it sounds, Joel, you're saying that external bundle is already this thing that they want?
Well, it's
close.
It's close. It's essentially just a directory that has a cloud object that serves as the entry point to it. So when you request that object, it can run this delayed. And
that's great. That's what they want.
Yeah. And then they can put other things underneath it.
I think that's exactly what they want.
Yeah, sounds exactly right.
Bob S has also got some experience with kind of hooking into the cloud deploy / cloud publish. There's some up value that you set to get it sort of recognized by some parts of the system. Just as another resource, but it can certainly be a point of contact.
Right, but so this is what they would do. It looks exactly like what they have right now. They just deploy as an external bundle, and then everything will just work. Then that API function has to reference the things in the same external bundle. And I don't know exactly how it does that, but that's what you guys have to figure out. So Marcy, you understood that Bob S needs to be connected to these guys?
Yes.
Okay, so let's come up with a name for the thing which would actually show up in the UUID, right? UUID followed by something here. And that name has got to be something like AR Dispatcher or AR Viewer. What do you think the right name for that is? It's the thing where when you go there,
it serves you the right thing.
Right. So is it?
It's not the viewer right there. The viewer is in the thing that you have.
AR object.
Could be.
All right. So AR object, tentatively. Because that's what you'll see. It's, oh, what is it? It's an AR object.
Right.
Okay. So now let's talk about what it looks like when you publish this. So the thing that you need to get back. Okay, when you do cloud publish, you always get a cloud object back. True or not true?
True.
The display of the cloud object can contain weird stuff, as it does for mail receiver function. True or not true?
Find weird stuff, but
Well, I mean, they need to get back a thing which displays the barcode.
so you're talking about what happens when you visit the URL in the cloud object.
No, I'm not when you visit it. No,
I mean,
the way
we
this
could-
works.
We
is-
can easily, that cloud object can be baked into that other object that we have. So it doesn't have
right,
to be
exactly.
the top line thing.
Right, but the point is that the deployment there should have, I mean, the idea is you get back into your notebook this thing with a,
Oh, the
you know,
typeset thing. Okay.
yeah, the
I mean-
typeset thing with a QR code.
I mean, the best would have been that, you do a AR deploy and then you just get a cloud object with a QR code, right? Instead of the long URL.
No, I understand that. So this would be an alternative. Okay, so that's an interesting idea, that cloud object could have some kind of option that causes it to be displayed as a QR code rather than as the URL. That might be useful in general.
Yeah, actually.
Why do we want the cloud object returned, not some other wrapper that contains the cloud object and the barcode and displays?
Well,
with the
okay,
barcode?
we could do that. The disadvantage of that, the thing I'm concerned about is we're going to need to deploy, a publish, whatever. And I don't want to replicate, AR publish, AR deploy. Seems very weird.
Right, but don't we have already, don't those objects, those functions, cloud publish, can't they already take things? They could just operate on this head, this object.
Yes,
Right.
but
The
here's the
question is,
problem.
what does it return?
Yeah, cloud publish always returns a cloud object.
Always returns a, I see.
So we have counterparts for this in like create cloud expression and maybe permissions group that have their own creator deployer functions that return something with a different head. So it's not, you have to give it an expression anyway. But and it's critical for cloud expression because the way you use it is completely different from any other kind of object.
Right.
That's why it's an exception.
And delete object works on it.
But delete object works on it.
Okay, so let's come back to this. Okay, so the options are AR deploy, AR publish, 2 functions, and an AR deployment. Or actually, AR object would be the consistent thing. Right, so the one possibility is that we have explicitly AR, because people are going to want both the deploy case and the publish case, in my opinion.
And you think of which one is private of these two?
Deploy.
Okay.
Publish has the public route.
Yeah.
And then these would probably create an AR object. I hate that though, because it's really an AR, it's really a cloud object. Okay,
Yeah.
so plan B would be that we have a new thing here that is called, where you say cloud publish of AR. Okay, here's an interesting suggestion, maybe. What about cloud publish of AR of graphics that then returns a cloud object whose format has been set so that it displays its URL as in this form. Do you see what I'm saying? So Cloud Object right now, Joel, I think, didn't we put in these things that specify the format in which the Cloud Object
There's
URL?
name formats and URL types, yeah.
Okay, Cloud Object name format. So that could perfectly well say, we could have a setting for that just says QR code. Could we not? Because that affects just the print form, correct? Is that true? It affects the print format. Should be formatted. Yeah, it's just the print form, right?
The question of how the URL looks is probably after this, because the name format actually changes the URL. It could be by UUID. It could
I
be
see,
by
I see,
name.
I see, I see. Okay, fine. So we
So it
need
might have
another
to be yet
option.
another thing, yeah.
Right. So we need the
Not a, yeah.
Cloud
general
Object
idea.
display format.
Yeah.
Okay, so it could either be, and it could be, in fact, that will be useful anyway, because sometimes you just don't need to
Mhm.
see the frigging, you could just say iconized or something, and it's
Mhm.
just a blob, and you just click it to get to it. All right, so Cloud Object display format. Okay, I kind of like this. What do you guys think? Roger, what do you think of this?
What, so it's a kind of a wrapper, is what you're
It's
saying?
a pure wrapper
Mhm.
that says, make this an AR. I mean, I don't know what else we'd say. AR what?
Yeah.
AR object, AR, I mean, and this is nice and short. So then that would go in when we have cloud deploy, right? There's a motley collection of things that you can deploy.
Oh,
Right? Each one is lodged in the server in a different way.
I see. Okay. Just thinking of what else one would use that wrapper for, but I can't immediately.
Well, we don't have anything right now. I mean, I think that potentially that wrapper, and inside that wrapper, you can put all these things like the formats you want, and you can put other, details like a maximum polygon count or something, whatever the hell you want there. If you see what I'm saying. I mean, the whole point is you need that, because otherwise, if you just have a 3D graphic there, it doesn't know that this is what you want. It doesn't know you want to go augmented reality with it.
Yeah, I mean, that is to give Cloud Publisher knowing what to do, right? Instead of having a different function. But then Cloud Deploy can also work on the same wrapper.
Exactly. That's the whole point. And so the whole mechanism of permissions and publishing and deployment and all that stuff, and auto refreshed and so on, everything would just work.
Auto refreshed.
Refresh it.
I got to learn more about the cloud.
But so auto refreshed is something where, let's say that the thing well, I mean, I'm not sure that would work in this case, but you should be able to wrap. Okay, so here's an interesting question. Okay, let's say you want to do the following. Let's say you have an API function that wants to return something that is one of these AR. Well, I guess you just do that. Yeah, you just do that because you have to have a secondary publishing. So your API function would then contain cloud publish of AR or whatever else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they would do the same thing as you do in top level. That's what you mean.
Right. But I mean, in this, so here, what you would do is to get out the QR code, you would just say this thing here, you'd have a sub-value to the cloud object. We have sub-values to cloud objects, don't we?
I don't think we do, but I've started to think this would be a great
we have
idea.
the following properties.
We have information, yeah.
Right. So we could certainly put QR code into the information. Right. And then these things could become sub-values as well. Does that make sense?
But this AR head that you're talking about, does this exist only as a queue to Cloud Publish, or does it have some other use in the system?
Well, I'm not sure yet. I mean, what else could it? I can imagine that it has other uses in the system, like, I mean, it is like rasterize. It's a way of converting. I mean, okay, spherical image, for example. How would you get? Wait a minute. You know, for example, you want to make a spherical image. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. Roger, Charles, what else could that be used for?
Well, I mean, there was also, I mean, like earlier, the AR deploy have different target, right? I mean, right now, it seems like all our emphasis is on the, the cloud side, but it's possible that there is a different path later on with, a different device who doesn't go through the cloud, right? Or we have a completely different process, right?
Right, but the whole point here is that we would then support whatever it is, service execute or something of this thing, which would send it to some bizarre, I don't know, sort of, VR dome or something, or whatever the heck it is. I mean, I remember about 3 years ago, I was using, it was unbelievably messy, but I was sending things to the, what was it we're using, a Vive. I was trying to send, do you remember that? I think you probably helped with this, Charles. I was sending stuff for the physics project to be able to visualize hypergraphs.
Yes.
How did that work? How did that actually get sent to the Vive? It was very messy, as I recall.
Right. Well, I don't know what was the iteration after that, but the first prototype was through the Unity link, where we were essentially, building the whole scene and generating the code for the Vive.
Yeah, that was freaking crazy. I mean, yes, I don't think there was another iteration. I think we gave up at that point. But is there a more modern way of doing that, using this GLTF format and things?
As far as I know, those devices don't yet have those direct paths. Or maybe I need to explore more. I haven't yet checked, but
okay. Okay, but all right. So one question is whether to be more defensive in the naming of AR here.
Right, it doesn't seem useful to have this symbol if it only is used to signal to Cloud Publish and Cloud Deploy that this should be done.
They
as an
need a
AR
signal.
thing.
They need a signal.
Well, but I mean, if this head is useful unto its as a wrapper, general wrapper in the system, then great. But if it has no, and I guess it probably will be useful for some things.
No, but Todd, my point is there needs to be some signal to Cloud Publish.
Well, the alternative would be AR Publish, right? AR Deploy.
Which I don't like very much because they're giving you I see, AR Publish that returns a cloud object.
Yeah, right. It's just we don't need to invent, but then we have to have two other symbols, AR Publish, AR Deploy. It just seems a little weird to use this AR wrapper head only just as a hint to Cloud Publish, but I suppose it probably
API function is only a hint to Cloud Publish as well. Well, I mean, I admit, okay.
Well, you can
API function you can use directly in the system.
You can use it directly, and you can use it in generate HTTP response, which is something that you could use for other types of web server situations.
Which you could also use for this, presumably.
Let's see, is that right?
I think so. If this thing is, yeah, it should work the same way. It should produce its bundle, and then you can deploy it not in the cloud. So
the bundle is cloud specific. Yeah, this is where I'd want to ask Carlo how he would think of this for generating.
Okay, fine, but I mean, but that's a good point. That being able to deploy this, yeah, in a way
is
that
this connected to an export format?
Yes, inside
Okay.
there is multiple export formats. Okay, but here's a scenario. You want to, instead of using our cloud, you want to have a piece of JavaScript that's running on some generic Apache server. See what I'm saying? To do the same thing. I mean, I hope you wouldn't want to do that. You might as well use our cloud.
Right, but in that usage argues for AR publish.
No, it doesn't, because that's going to the cloud object. Because if you say generate that, otherwise you'd need
Right.
AR generate HTTP response, which is crazy. If you've got this wrapper, this AR wrapper, you can say generate HTTP response. You can do everything that you can do with any of the other cloud object things. All right. I mean, okay, well, how could we name AR a bit more defensively?
I mean, in some ways, it's kind of XR that we're doing. No, it's VR, AR, MR.
Yeah. What's MR?
Mixed reality.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could imagine something like then XR rendering of graphics or something. Actually, why not XR form? That's the same thing that we have with export form, right? Oh, yes. Remember export form? Think about export form. Was that what you were going for? Yeah. This is what to do. This is how to do it. See what I'm saying? That says that when you cloud deploy, we want this as a GIF.
But if you remember, that's what I was pointing out at the beginning, that if somebody know the platform where they are, you are on, like right now, somebody knows that you want to deploy.
I understand. So then you can do cloud deploy of export form of blah.
Right. That's why my point is that these parts are there, right? So we can tell user how to do it, and then the best is to have a separate function who does the AR deployment.
It's not the best thing. Think about it. Look, we just went through all the reasons why that's not a good idea, right? Because it's got tons of options about permissions, about whether it's a generate HTTP response going to a foreign server, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We do not want to replicate that for the AR thing. Do you see what I'm saying? We want to piggyback on what's already there in the cloud.
I agree, but somebody can replicate it in a few lines. The cost is that, by embedding it as a wrapper.
No, it's not going to work, Charles. It's not going to work. You've got to be able to delete the objects. You've got to be able to do all these things, which are all provided by the cloud system. You're not going to rebuild the cloud system.
No, I agree, Stephen. But what I mean is that in a classroom, right, somebody have to just tell to a kid, just take your plot 3D and I will generate it to the, export it and look at it on your phone, right? So somebody have to start to type, cloud publish of AR, of graphics, and generate a cloud object. So there is that. I mean, programmatically is nice.
You know what? The 3D print function, I've tried to use that a bunch of times. It never worked for me. Never worked. I always have to ask you how to use it, because it always doesn't quite connect to the printer correctly, does this wrong, it does that wrong, because it was another one of these El Cheapo things that doesn't go through our main system. So when things go wrong, you're stuck. I agree it's nice to be able to say, just render this.
So is it the case that we're trying that I'm thinking about like a function that's trying to translate something about the environment to which format are we rendering to?
But something in the runtime environment from the phone.
Right, but I'm trying to imagine how this could be made, like more defensively. So I'm thinking about it in terms of there's a rendering function, or there's a function that's going to take a graphic and an environment, like basically a function that translates from something in your environment to the export format. And you could provide that for the different environments. Cloud environment would use user agent, but another environment might use something else in that function.
Yes. But I mean, that's not the only thing you might want to do. You might want to reduce the polygon count for certain devices and things like this. You might want all sorts of stuff going on. Is XR publish? Okay, if you could have XR publish, for example, if what we did was to say there's an XR form that is like export form, or perhaps it's a version of export form, but it's not because it's got MIME types and things in it, right? Am I making sense? I mean, I have to believe that there will be a on-computer version of this before very long. Am I making sense? As opposed to only phones. The VR version will be an on-computer thing, right?
I mean,
Well-
there'll definitely be headsets.
No, but
Are they
what
going to
about
be
the following
standalone?
possibility?
Or are they going to be?
But what about the following thing? If it's on a computer, why are we just acting, like we're dead in the water? Why aren't we just bringing up a standard 3D viewer? In other words, if you open that URL on your computer, why
I
not
see
just
what you're
come
saying.
up with a 3D viewer? Seems like the obvious thing to do. I don't know how you launch a 3D viewer. Is there a default 3D viewer that exists in a web browser, for example? But that's what we should look
Well-
at. Go ahead.
Well, so when you say 3D viewer is pretty much on the desktop, the viewer is just based on the file format. So like in that, in the first example, the example when you try to open it from your computer, the system open, right? In that case, we can, on Mac, have,
Well, we just have a MIME type. That's what determines how it opens on a web browser. It's going to open in a web browser with a MIME type. Okay. So what is there a MIME type that will produce a 3D viewer?
I think they will need some kind of plugin. I mean, or
do they? I mean, is that still true? I don't know if that's still true.
kind of think it is.
Right. So on the browser by default don't support USD or GRTF, right?
They don't yet. I understand they don't support those yet, right? But the question is, when you are serving it to the desktop, you need to serve a dot blah 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 file to the
Right.
desktop. And I assume that the files that you have, the backing files here, are named as .usd, etc. Correct?
Yes. And if you open them, there is a MIME type. I guess
Fine. So I'm saying for the desktop, we should produce the most friendly, least ridiculous MIME type. Right? The one where you're most likely or it's easiest to get a viewer. And if there is one which has a viewer by default in web browsers, that will be great. Am I making sense?
Yep. Yes, doable.
There. And that means we don't have to have that page of you got here, but we can't do anything with it. Unless we think it is so difficult to get a 3D viewer that's what we have to do. Otherwise, you'll go through the operating system mechanism of there's an unknown MIME type, get a viewer for this, right?
Right.
Okay. I need to get going in a second here, but
But Stephen, were you suggesting what's highlighted on your screen? Cloud deploy of export form of some 3D graphics, ARs. That is what you're suggesting this should be?
well, I'm asking, could we just do that
Yeah,
as
seems like-
wait a minute, as the manual version of this,
Oh,
quote XR or something?
As the manual version of this or as the only version of this?
No, as the manual version, and then give Charles his XR publish. That will be an El Cheapo version of this that doesn't do permissions, doesn't do all kinds of other stuff, right? Do you get what I'm
So
saying?
Is there an XR deploy or is it just
No,
XR publish?
there would not be. Just be XR publish. And
I
if you
see.
want deployment, you've got to go and use cloud deploy of export form of that, XR. Now, I don't think we should just call it XR. We should just call it like XR object or something, mirroring the file extent, file name. You see what I'm saying? And that would then deploy as one of these external bundles. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the deployment is an external bundle.
But is it the case? Do we have file formats that deploy as multiple files in the cloud? Is there an export format? Roger, there are export formats that deploy multiple files. True or not? It doesn't even HDF. Doesn't that have a directory?
I mean, USD have directory. I mean, the whole is a zip file.
No, I'm asking a different question. I'm asking.
I think HDF has its all baked in.
Okay, all right, but I'm asking in export, do we
Yes.
ever export a directory?
I think HTML does that.
Okay,
HTML
fine.
does for sure. Yes.
Okay, fine. So we've had a precedent for that. So we can simply say export form of XR object. Now, then export could also be able to export an XR object, which would be exactly the same thing that you're deploying to the cloud as a directory. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Right, which is a nice way so that then you don't have to go through all of this auto plumbing. You can just get the files sitting right there on your file system. You do whatever you want with them. Right, makes sense? Yes, does that make sense, Charles?
Yes.
But if you're saying export, just export of some 3D
Yeah, well,
graphic, comma, XR.
that's what
or
I'm
something,
saying.
is going to make a directory that mirrors the. But is that what people want? If they're doing it, if I'm just doing this on my desktop computer.
No, you don't want that. We don't know why you want that yet. It's just a thing you might want. Okay? We don't know what that's good for right now. Okay? The more common case would be that you say cloud deploy of export form of graphics 3D, XR object. And that would then do everything we're talking about. But there would be an El Cheapo form of this, which is XR publish of graphics 3D. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where am I saving this?
Geometry, graphics.
Visualization. Do you like the name XR publish? Would you prefer AR publish? And I assume we want a default to publish it. I don't think we want a default to deploy it because in your scenario of a classroom, it's not going to work. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think publish is the most useful, at least at this stage.
Yeah, so do I. I think the number of people who have secret geometries that they're, that aren't, where they're going to worry that somebody's going to poke into their UUID is very small. Okay, so XR publish, like publish, would then have a second argument that's the destination.
Charles, do you have a strong opinion between XR and AR?
Not really.
Yeah,
I mean,
me neither.
I mean,
What
the
do you
only
think
issue,
it's going to be called when the Apple headset thing comes out? Is it going to be called XR or AR? Why don't we find out what Apple has been calling it? Because I think that's going to dominate this market when that finally appears.
They just decided to actually release the product this year.
I mean, Apple have been always calling it AR. I mean, all their stuff.
It's
That was-
AR.
Okay,
So it have been always AR.
then maybe we should call it AR object for now. I mean, AR seems. it's a
And the
little hard for
meta
me.
people, Oculus and so on, they're VR folks, right?
Well, I mean, AR is certainly the more popular name for now.
Yes.
All right, so AR object it is, and AR publish. Okay, so then cloud publish has destinations and so on, which this would inherit. And this is returning, AR publish is returning a cloud object that will have this extra plumbing that Joel is going to implement that allows you to get the QR code. Make sense?
So that means that will be basically a one-stepper.
Yes, AR publish is a one-step thing. This will return a cloud object, which will just look like, it'll basically return this.
Yeah.
Oops. It'll look like this. And there's a cloud object wrapper around it, which, well, that's just life.
That's
And,
okay.
and yeah. Okay. I think we got a decent design here. It's pretty cool, actually. The whole functionality is very cool.
Yeah,
Right.
it
Anything
worked
else?
fine for me.
What's that?
It worked fine for me when I did it at the start of this meeting.
I do just want to try, okay, one thing here, just for 1 second. And I really need to go. Oh my God. Does it need a progress monitor?
Probably.
What's it doing? Does it run the different file outputs? Are they, okay, why is that? That looks a little odd.
Oh,
Does
that's right. We wanted to kind of put the shape of the object there to
I
make
know
a
that, but
distinction.
at what angle? Why not put it at the default view angle?
Yeah, you should probably restore that. We put front and default, and yeah,
I don't
we'll
think you
adjust
want
that.
to do that. I think you want the default view angle. Help, how do I do this? Camera. Wow. Well, if it wasn't ghostly, it'd be fantastic. Wow. The thing is a little bit, when I pinch zoom the thing, it's a bit fuzzy.
Is there something with the
Right.
normals, Charles? I think
Yes,
there's so-
we need to carry the
show you,
normal,
let me
the
show you.
color, and the rest.
Maybe I can show you. I don't know if I can show you. Can you see that? It's a bit. Can I have
Oh,
it?
right. Because also they also look at it as a subdivision surface and they smooth the whole thing. So we need to push the normal to avoid all that.
How do I focus the stamp thing? It's weird. Oh, maybe that focuses it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it looks like one of those things that's been, printed, 3D printed out of some bad plastic.
Yeah, it looks like it's an inflatable too. Might be a good inflatable
This one might be, yeah.
to build a really big one. People can walk around it.
Right.
Kids.
Okay. Anyway, so minor issues there, but it's spectacular. This works. Okay. I'm super late. I'm going to be late to the next meeting. I would guess 10 minutes late or something. Which is also a live stream, and we're obviously going to have to come back to the remaining stuff that's in this agenda.
Right.
And unfortunately, we are deeply running out of time because there's a lot of other stuff going on this week. But hopefully we can. We've got Roger. We have a meeting this evening. Maybe we can cover this then, if Charles is available. Let's let Kristen try and deal with that.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, hold on. Okay, a couple of people from our live stream are favoring XR and MR, and yeah. But I think for right now, this deployment and those file formats, if I look up the GLTF file format, will it say it's an AR file format, or because it isn't a VR? I mean, it's not the thing that you feed to a Vive headset or something, right? There isn't a way to do that yet.
Yeah, they are just generic transfer format, right, for 3D.
Yeah, but so this workflow is really an AR workflow.
Yes.
Yeah, it really is. The whole point is that you walk around it, it places it in your environment.
Well, except that I think the more actually for our purposes, the thing that where I was just visualizing the object without is also really, that's also useful. Okay, I got to go. Thanks, guys. And for those following these live streams, we will be starting another live stream probably in about 10 minutes. Thanks. See ya.